And welcome to another Gaslec podcast. It's episode 80, and I'm super excited for this one for you guys. And thank you very much indeed for listening. We're still in the top 10. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about injuries at work and outside of work as well, and the effect that they can have on your business. We're also going to be looking at vans and braggers, one of my two sort of top 10 hates within plumbers merchants, and what we've been up to this week in the world of Gaslec. This and a few bits more after my friend Sean tells you a bit more about the podcast. Are you a new person coming into plumbing and heating? Are you a homeowner that likes a bit of DIY? Or are you a business owner and want a bit more knowledge before you make some decisions on your plumbing and heating? Stay tuned to the podcast and hopefully we'll be able to help you out with some of your questions. And welcome back, guys, and thank you. So, injuries. So we've all got some tall stories. So if you're working on your own, if you're just setting out into the industry, it's super, super important for health and safety and your PPE. Now, this can seem a little bit over the top. You're in someone's house and it's a bungalow and you're wearing your hard hat indoors. And I think there's a certain amount of common sense that does need to be applied to health and safety, because not every situation fits all. You know what I'm getting at. So, yeah, if you're in someone's house having a hard hat on, it's absolutely pointless. The light bulb ain't really going to fall out the ceiling and knock you on the head. But I've been on places where you've got Egypts up there on the roof with their first fixed nail guns, firing with the safety catches back down into the sand below, thinking it's hilarious as you're walking out. So, those sort of people there, they don't deserve to be working. I presume that these guys were actually employed by somebody who was a fanatic drug taker himself. So no doubt these people were probably high on some sort of drug, and were having this horseplay that seemed to be acceptable on the workplace. So in that situation, if you ever get there and things are being absolutely dangerous, people are throwing bricks off the tops of buildings, and you're working below, speak up and walk off. Don't get injured, don't get hurt, and certainly don't get killed, or the risk of being killed. So over the years, what have I got through within work? I've broke fingers. I've broke toes. There's a funny story about a broken toe. I've broke toes on jobs. I've cut my eyeball with a piece of. I chipped off a wall tile in a bathroom. It pinged off, hit me in the eye. I didn't have safety goggles on. Such a simple job, an injury that could have been prevented, that could have caused permanent blindness, just for wearing a pair of safety goggles. I didn't have them on. I was sort of self-employed, as it were, one-man band. I thought I knew best. I got a splinter in my hand. I didn't have any gloves on. Now, if it would have gone through a glove, the splinter would have gone through the glove, but I didn't have any gloves on to start with. So there was never that layer of it could have been prevented. But I've told everyone that knows me, that everybody knows me, knows this story. I got a splinter on my finger just into there. It was actually off a brand new piece of wood, a bit of CLS, if you know that sort of that little 3B2 stuff. And as I then picked it up, got the splinter, and I said a few swear words. I thought I picked it all out, and then I went on my day, and that was on a Thursday morning. I then went about my Thursday at work, had the weekend. Tuesday evening, I get home from work, and I says to Mrs. Gaslec, I said, "Oh, I think there's a funny red line going up my arm from my thumb." So it come around here, this red line, this track line, and it come up my arm. And I thought, what is it moving? So I got a piece of pen and I'd marked my arm. And it had gone past, gone past, gone past. And by dinner time, when I was having my tea, it had gone down to my heart. And then I had to start a blood poisoning from a simple splinter. So that could have been easily prevented potentially with a set of gloves. Of all the dirty toilets and the cuts that I've got from that I haven't had any dramatic um, reactions to, and that was probably the biggest reaction there. What else have I done? I was cutting a bath panel with a Stanley knife, and as I come down, I stabbed myself in the top of the leg, and the whole blade went in to like a Stanley blade. Did that. I fractured a kneecap. when a boiler exploded because someone over an overheat stat that the boiler wasn't sort of circulating the water. So someone had actually linked out the overheat stat on the boiler, and as I turned the boiler on, got it fired up, I was staring at the flame, and it just went bang. It massively, rapidly expanded, and there was a little plastic water part that blew that apart. But the last thing I saw was the flame. All of a sudden, I've got no vision, and a loud bang. Within an instant, you'll think it's a gas explosion. That maybe jumped backwards, fell into the bath, and I cracked my kneecap or fractured my kneecap. In doing so, it turned out there was water going everywhere, and it was just steam that sort of got me because I was soaking wet as well. So, what I'm trying to get at with all these little things within work, some of these are preventable, and that calls me to have time off of work. That calls me to come to work hurt, constantly on tablets for paracetamols and anti-inflammatories all the time because of all these aches and pains. And certainly, I've got a little bit older. I'm really starting to feel those now, certainly within the fingers, and within the feet and the ankles. So it's really important that you do apply the common sense, even when there's no one watching. Could this go wrong? Could I slip with that chisel? Could I whack my own hand with that hammer? And how can I prevent that from happening? And then going into hobbies, there's a lot of guys within the plumbing and heating industry that love a bit of golf, or they love a bit of fishing. And I've got a bit of a theory there, and that's because they're quite sort of low risk sports. So they're a little bit outdoors. Fishing, you're sort of sitting around a little bit on a bank, or you may be in a boat, but it's not that sort of risky in that sense. You're walking around a golf course, on a summer's day rather than a light of thunder and lightning, and it's relatively low risk. There's not many people out there that do cliff climbing, those things without ropes. There's not many people that do that. Skydivers, people that own their own businesses. It tends to be a younger person's sport, where it's got a more of a higher risk of getting injured. Now, I do love me motorbiking, and funny enough, reason for this topic to come up was actually I've got an off-road bike and I fell off yesterday, and I've actually hurt my ankle. So I'm hobbling around and feeling sorry for myself at the moment. But that sort of thing, you start thinking about, some of the stuff that I do within trials, I look at and go, yeah, I can manage that. But some stuff I go, do you know what? That's not me. I'm too old for it. I've got too many responsibilities now. So here at the Gaslec team, we've got the admin team, we've got guys on the road. We've got all of this stuff here, and the business to run. And I can't afford to be laid up in hospital with a broken leg or a broken collarbone or any of that sort of stuff. 'Cause I've got too much responsibilities. I've got too many families that I need to find their wages for every month. So really do bear that in mind, what your hobbies are and the risk of those, and how it may impact on your responsibilities and within your career as well. So another thing that really does boil me really is vans and braggers, especially around new people. Now, when you've got a couple of old sweats inside a plumber's merchants, we'll just say, you'll get a few stories being bandied around and stuff like that. But when the new people come in, that's when you start to see a little bit of a show-offy sort of conversation start to happen in my experience. And I call it the vans and the braggers. So they'll be out there, and let's just say they're my sort of age, and they've been in the industry a while, and they've done all right, and the kids are grown up and left home, or so their world's changed a lot, and they've gone out and bought a 60,000 quid van. It's sitting out there, and it's got all the body kit on it, and it all looks the business. And they're oh yeah, I charge this and I do that, and oh, there was a little old lady and I charged her 500 quid for a call out on a Saturday and all that sort of stuff. I really think it doesn't help sort of inspire the new people and set the correct pace of things to come. And most of the time, those 60,000 quid vans are all on PCP. And in 2-3 years' time, they've got to give them all back because they've just got a £700 a month sort of rental agreement with on the van. So, if you're setting out on your own, you're new into the industry, you're going on your own, just think about being practical with a van. Okay, you won't wing the sausage swinging competition within the merchants. Who's got the best and the shiniest? Who's got the brand new reg on the first of the October when it pulls into the car park? You won't win that. But what you will be doing is you'll be growing a great foundation. You haven't got a phenomenal commitment of finance where you got to find loads. You go and spend a couple of grand. I've got one van here that Dean drives that cost me 37,000 quid, and that was a Renault Traffic automatic. Dean joined us, and I gave him my, because that was my van. Been a bit lazy with the old auto gearbox, and I gave him that van. Subsequent vans have cost me 10, 12, 15,000 quid. And do you know what? They do exactly the same. And they still get the same punches. The headlights still go. The brake lights still play up. All of those things are exactly the same. When you pull up to a customer's house and park outside, they're not running around looking at the number plate and Googling it to see what year it is. They pull it up, nice, clean and presentable van. There it all is. Looks nice and modern. Open the back doors up. There's the racking down the sides. There's your kit and all ready to go. So those guys that are spending that sort of money are normally compensating on normally a little bit of confidence somewhere within the industry. And obviously there's lots of old sayings about men and compensating things with shiny things anyway. So don't be drawn into that bragging. And when they start saying, "Oh, I charge minimum £500 a call out, and I do this and I do that," or "I work 7 days a week, I'm 24 hours a day call out," and stuff like that. If you are setting out on your own, do set your own times, because your family and your social events and your network are so important. Which then goes into my next category, really about um, that your family's important. So whether you may not be married, you may not have any kids, and it's absolutely fine. All things come to those who wait. Um, but just you're going to be setting out on your own. You need to make sure that you've got your support of your family around you, because it will get difficult. It will get hard. You will go on holiday and get that phone call. "Oh, you fitted that toilet for us the other day, and it's starting to drip a little bit, and I want you here today." Well, I'm actually away for the next 10 days. Well, I don't care. I want you here. So if you don't come around and fix it, I'm going to get someone else, and um, I'm going to get you to cover the bill. That sort of customers, I've had them, certainly when I was a one-man band myself. So building up a good network of people you know and trust around you can pop along and just sort those little niggles out for those sort of irritant customers that we do get. And as I've got a little bit better with and a little bit more experience with business, you sort of sniff these people out quite early on. And there are some customers that when they've come in, there's been a set of circumstances happening at the time, and I've said, "No, no, we're not interested." It's a two-way street. They want you to work for them, and we want to work for you. And if one of them says no, the job ain't happening. So just always be aware. The no option is always an option for you guys out there. But just to close the podcast, really. So what I would say is quite sad, really, when I reflect back on my life, that within business, that I can remember every school play and every single parents' night that I couldn't attend for my children. They're all grown up now because I was working. I cannot remember a single job that I did that was that important. I can't remember why I had to miss it. So these people, we've got to have this, we've got to have that, deadlines, you got to do, you got to do, you got to do, and missing out on all that family stuff because this job was so important, but I can't remember what it is. And they don't ring me up every year and say, "Oh, it's the anniversary from that job that you did for us. Thank you very much indeed for getting it over the line, getting it finished, getting this on, getting that on." No one ever does that. So all I've ever happened is the family side of my world suffered because of the business, and that's a commitment that you may have to make as well. But be understanding that you can turn your phone off, and no means no, and you don't have to do a job for every single customer that calls you up. So here at Gaslec last week, I just remembered there was one little bit I want to pass on to you guys. It was a little bit of information for you. So I got called out early doors. I was there at 6:30 in the morning, the other side of the M25. So it took me about an hour and a half to get there from here in Kent. Gets to there, a commercial building, and they had a water leak. And I turned up with thinking it was a 3/4 sort of iron pipe. Turned out it wasn't, it was an inch and quarter iron pipe, all wound on, no brake unions. So I went through the loft area because it was in the loft and dripping down like this void. It's almost like a chimney, but it wasn't. But it was, that's what it was like this service shaft all the way through the building. There are two, one each side of the hallway, like the central hallways on the landings. And as they come, as it was dripping down, it was doing all the plaster and the brickwork and stuff. It was making a right old mess. I found another valve that had been fitted later on, turned that off, and I think it had gone to some redundant water pipes that were no longer being used. So I think happy days, winner, winner, chicken dinner. But while I was there, I was with the manager of the building, with the business, and I was going through, and there was this sink downstairs, and I turned the hot on. It was running really slowly. And I was thinking, oh, I don't think it was a hot pipe in the loft that I've just isolated. I'm just about to leave. And I said, well, actually, you've got iron pipes here. You might have a bit of copper here, but you've got iron pipes into your system. And what they do is they fur up and get smaller and smaller because they rust from the inside, and they start closing up and the walls get thinner and thinner. And that's where we start getting our leaks from. So I took the end of this, it was like a kitchen mixer. I took the end of the kitchen mixer, and we had cold mains one side. So I put my hand on it, opened up the hot fully, and it stopped because it was only trickling. Then I brought it round and blended it. And as I blended it, you could hear the water running, and the cold mains come up. Of course, it couldn't come out because I was holding the end, and went down the hot and was then pushing the hot back up. As I then let go, it was like textbook. As I then let go, this water come out, and it was running at a really good rate because it must have pushed some debris out of the way. It flowed like chocolate. It was this dark, rusty brown. It must have took 3 or 4 minutes for this water to run clear again. And you could see these little lumps of rust pinking into the sink. Clink, clink, tink, tink, tink. You could hear them bouncing off the stainless steel sink. And I said to the client, I said, look, this is the problem you've got with this hot water system, and it's on they've got a gravity cold as well as cold mains as well. I said we need to take this back to the beginning and get this restarted again and get all this old iron pipe, because this iron pipe, it runs literally everywhere. We need to start again and simplify this system here, because it goes up, it loops back round, it goes off to places that are redundant. So that was a fantastic example of an iron pipe in front of the customer, which very, very rarely happens. So we've got Dan on board. We've got the 3Ds out on the road, as well as myself, and he's really been sort of championing the Gaslec company forwards there. So it's fantastic. And Dan, Dean, and Dave, the guys out on the road. I'm terrible for names that are that close together. We've had a really busy week. I think we fitted 5 boilers last week. I think we completed over 100 jobs between all 4 of us, which is absolutely fantastic. Must be maybe more than that. But yeah, we've all been really busy all week. Which is fantastic. The weather's still in the teens for the daytime, single digits at night. That's going to change the end of next week. I always watch the weather and see how that's all panning out. So, guys, that wraps up this week's podcast. So, wear your PPE. It's there for a reason, to protect you, so you don't get injured. But from an employer's point of view, we want you at work, and we want you productive, and we want you healthy. And that's probably the main thing as well. We don't want you hurt and injured. So yeah, it's there for a reason. If you don't have it, let your boss know, let your company know you're working for, get hold of it. If you're working for yourself, make sure you got it on the van. In the famous words of Guy Martin, I'd rather be looking at it than for it in a situation. You take care, guys. Have a fantastic week, and all the best. Goodbye.